Alrighty, good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, October 25th, 2023. Let's go ahead and jump right into it here. It might be a short pre-market this morning because nothing has really changed since yesterday. But let's go ahead and go back to yesterday morning and see what happened here on the minute details. I'm going to jump back to the report that we put out and look at some of the key insights, key plans of action. We did have basically bullish clues from yesterday. So yesterday morning, meaning this yesterday was Monday morning, bullish clues from yesterday, Monday, gaining momentum with a 4-hour bearish clue from our overnight high coming into the open there. And then down here, what did we say? We've got bullish push from the clues from yesterday's overnight low. And in today's overnight session, price held above 50% of the previous day and is attempting to continue to push, right? Note, we're currently having trouble, right, at our scaffolding here. The most important thing for the confirmation of the daily bullish signal will be price getting above the previous daily high and holding above it. Beware of the peak above and fail pattern. I warn you guys of this pretty often, and I'm actually really happy that I did yesterday because, again, I warned you multiple times. Like we talked, I verbally mentioned it. You know, peak above and fail is a very common thing, especially I've noticed in the current market conditions, we get a lot of fake outs both ways. So that was very important. I'm glad I emphasized it in multiple places. I also said here, always be aware of the peak above and fail or peak below and bounce scenario on either end. Obviously, 50% of the previous week, still strong line in the sand for the bullish bias and a chop zone between our micro 61.8 level and the previous daily high. So if you look at the actual charts, here's the drawing we sent, or the picture we sent out. If we could get through the high of Monday, then we were going to confirm all the bullish signals we were getting from Monday's low, and then getting up through the line in the sand, the 50% of the previous week, would then confirm a higher time frame bullish bias. And then down below here, the bears needed to get through that micro 61.8 area, and then we were expecting a lot of potential support down here around this 4206 area. So what ended up happening here, and what was I going to say? Oh yeah, and then between the micro 61.8, the bear's first task, and the high of Monday, which is where we wanted to see the bulls get out of, that was going to potentially be a chop zone in there, right? So that's some of the stuff we were looking at coming into the open yesterday. We again had a bullish bias, expecting the market, because we held above 50% of the previous day, and we were up above the holy orange power level, and we were trading up above VWAP, our expectation was for that continuation higher to get through the high of the day before. And if we could get up through there, we would now confirm that daily bullish signal, give us a little bit more confidence that maybe the market would break out to the upside. So what happened here? If you were trying to buy pullbacks to the 200 throughout the morning, you probably got washed out. And that's the way it goes. You can have a specific strategy and works great for 2 or 3 days in a row, and then the next day, every time you try to trade that setup, doesn't work. It's just the way it is. So not a lot of great holds off the 200 on the way up, but it did hold VWAP. So if you bought VWAP, which again is really one of our textbook type of trade setups, depending on how it comes into the VWAP and where we are, but essentially holding VWAP here, we never really broke by more than about 1.5 points. I think we came down maybe 1.5 points below 61 there, and never broke more than say 6-7 ticks below VWAP. And if you bought VWAP, you would have got the whole push up to our expected resistance, which was the high the day before. So again, the pullbacks to the 200, nothing sexy throughout the whole morning, but those holds off the VWAP would have been kind of the really, really good thing to do. And then there's our peak above and fail pattern, right? So the high of the day before, back here, we come back up, we actually get through it. And I warned you of this very scenario. If we can get through the high of the day before, but it's just a couple ticks, maybe 2 or 3 points, and then it washes out and comes all the way back into the previous range, then that's probably a clue to be a bear and to start to sell the market, okay? So once that happened, once this happened right here, market peaked through, came down, we got our crossover, and then the bears held the market right off the back end of the 200 here. Again, another opportunity to maybe jump on the bearish side of things as you saw it fail, get down through the 200, the price get down through, and seeing that crossover, maybe trying that kickback right to the 50% retrace of the leg and the 200. That might have been a good thing to try, and that would have been a great opportunity to the downside. Or if you were more conservative, waiting for some more confirmation, once the market got down through VWAP to the downside, you could have then shorted it to capture some of these. Now, this right here would have been a beautiful setup with the 200 and the VWAP there, but it didn't quite go anywhere. You might have gotten 5 points out of that trade, a little over 5 points. Same thing here. If you would have shorted VWAP, you probably would have only gotten about 5 points out of it. But beautiful opportunities there because we were failing with the peak above and fail pattern. And so what did they do? What did the market do? They made it really difficult. They held and they held and they held. Then they probably took a bunch of the shorts out right there, taking all those stops, and then they went, right? So that's just the way it is. That's how the market is. Sometimes you have the idea right, you get in with a great entry, and then 5-10 minutes later, they peek through, they go 5-10 points through the level, take all those shorts out, and then they push it right to where you expected it to go. Can't control it, right? So great opportunity to get short once we had our peak above and fail pattern, once we got our crossover, once we got down through VWAP. Again, can't control the fact that they just probably washed a bunch of people out right there. But then from there, it was a great opportunity to be short. You had a great opportunity to get short off the back end of Hopel as we started to fail through it. Notice it bounced to the tick off the close, came to the tick to the Hopel, and you could have shorted there. There were plenty of short opportunities once we had our peak above and fail happen. Again, this probably would have washed me out if I was in that short. And then great opportunity off the back end, and then all the way down off the back end of the close, right? And then this is what makes things tough, is that the market retraced all the way back to the overnight lows and back to the 50% of the previous day. This is kind of a dividing line, right? This is our line in the sand. We want to see the bulls stay above it. And they started to actually fail and actually come right back to the back end of the 50 there and the FMA to tag it and continue to go. And the next thing you know, they just ripped it for a push all the way back to the high of the day. So probably if you were heavy bear all through the afternoon there, you probably could have gotten some trouble here when the whole phase changed and it went back to the top. Now on that rally to the top, there were still beautiful holds off the close of the day before. Again, off of the 50%. If you were trading one of those really nice kind of stair step down, I mean, it held the back end of the scaffolding in the VWAP, then held the back end of the orange power level, then held the back end of the close, then held the back end of the 50. At that point, it didn't quite get anywhere, and then it started to reverse and come back up, right? So you could have still tried the back end of the close. You got to pull back the back end of the Hopel, got to pull back, but held the FMA. So a lot of these levels still held for pullbacks, but then never really got anywhere, right? And then from there, we got back up above Hopel, held it for the pullback, and then broke out back through the VWAP there, again, to come all the way back up and probably fake a bunch of bulls out now that we were really appreciably getting through the high of the day before there and basically holding above it if we saw this in real time, seeing the pullback to the FMA, to the close of the day or the high of the day before, and then pushing higher. That would have been probably a great situation for someone who's a breakout trader to get long. And then just as quick as you got the breakout at the end of the day, it came right back down. And that was basically the New York close. So right around the close, we got this little rally. So I don't know if anyone would have been here trying to trade within the last minute of the market there, but it did kind of fake the bulls out there. And then the last couple minutes of the market there washed it right back down. So we got through the high of the day before. That was the condition we needed to see happen for our bullish bias. And again, we had our peak above and fail earlier that day. And that's just how the cookie crumbled, right? If we go back to this picture that we were dealing with here yesterday, the market pushed right into our first red zone, pulled back from it. That's where we needed to get above to confirm the daily bullish shingle. pushed back up at the end of the day to get through the high of the day before there just a little bit, and then they brought it right back inside of this chop zone range. So that's where it brings us here this morning. We've pulled back, and now we're trading inside of, there's 50% of the day before, trading right around the range of yesterday's price action. Haven't been able to break out. Again, going back to this picture, the market hasn't been able to break out through the top end of this expected resistance zone or break down through this expected support zone as we come into the open here this morning, right? So we're still stuck inside of everything. That's why I said our pre-market this morning is probably going to be the same old story as it was yesterday. So there's our review for yesterday. And then if we look at the overnight session, getting short around VWAP and 50% of the previous day would have been a good option there, and getting short in the middle of the night here off VWAP. Again, seeing the market failing with a peak above and fail from the day before, getting down through the 50% of the previous day, then coming up to tag the back end of VWAP. A great trading opportunity, but this happened again in the middle of the night for most of us, right? So two good little tags, and then we got through it and then held it to the upside there. Again, not a huge push, but a beautiful hold. And as you can see, we're just kind of trading around balance right now, right around the average of the overnight session. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have for this morning. We'll pull up our report. In fact, what I think I'm going to start doing is I'm going to do a review of the higher time frames on our charts first, and then go over to the actual report that I sent out this morning to kind of maybe reiterate the points I'm going to make on the charts. All right, I think that might be a good way to reinforce what we're going to do. So let me pull up the higher time frames now, and actually beautiful hold off the Hopel in the last few moments, guys, and it's just another beautiful example right in front of us here. Not planned, right? So let's go up. We'll go up to the weekly. Again, weekly